Some places are built to be homes, and some houses were never meant to be lived in at all. You can feel it the moment you step inside. The air is heavier. The hallways are a little too long. The doors don't like to stay closed, and the floorboards creak in rooms no one is walking through. You tell yourself it's old pipes, bad wood, settling foundations. You laugh it off in the daylight. But at night, when the lights go out and the world goes quiet, that's when the house starts to remember who was there before you. Tonight, you'll hear from 3 people who learned the hard way that not every house wants new memories inside its walls, and not every tenant is among the living. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? I love scrolling through the comments and seeing all the places, different cities, different countries, where our midnight society gathers after dark. And if you enjoy these true horror stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more night owls, insomniacs, and brave souls find their way into our circle. Welcome to episode 2 of Mr. Bones' Midnight Society. Now, let's begin. My name is Tyler, and when I was 16, I learned that some houses don't want new people living in them. I also learned what it feels like to be trapped in one of those houses with a broken leg, unable to run. My mom and I moved into a 2-story rental after she finally saved enough to get us out of the apartment we'd lived in for years. The place looked normal enough. White siding, green lawn, too many windows. But from the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet heaviness in the walls. The kind of stillness you notice only when you've lived in noisy apartments all your life. Mom loved it. "It's spacious, Ty," she said, hugging herself like she was trying to warm her excitement. "You finally get your own room and a backyard. And look, an actual staircase." The staircase, as it turned out, did not love me. A week after moving in, I was carrying a box of old school stuff down from my room. My foot hit something, a step that felt worn down, uneven. My ankle twisted. I pitched forward and fell the entire rest of the way. The box went flying. I hit the bottom hard. My vision blacked out for a second. The pain was instant, burning and sharp, and when I looked down, my leg was bent at a weird angle. The doctor said I'd fractured my tibia. I ended up in a cast from ankle to thigh. Mom was devastated. She kept replaying the fall out loud. Did I miss something? Was the stair loose? Did we inspect it wrong? I kept telling her it wasn't her fault. But deep down, I remembered how the step felt. Not loose, not slippery, just wrong. When we got home from the hospital, Mom helped me up the stairs, slow, painful, with my crutches tucked under my arm. It took forever. By the time we reached my bedroom, she looked exhausted. Over the next few days, she hovered over me nonstop, but she had to go back to work eventually. Bills didn't pay themselves. The first day she left me alone around 7:45 a.m., she kissed my forehead and said, "Call me if you need anything, okay? And stay in bed. Don't strain your leg." I told her I'd be fine. I was wrong. The house was too quiet. Not peacefully quiet, just empty quiet. The kind that makes you hear things you normally wouldn't, like footsteps. I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard creaking in the hallway. Slow, deliberate creaks, like someone walking without wanting to be heard. I froze. Mom had been gone maybe 10 minutes. Our house was at the end of a quiet suburban street. No attached walls, no shared pipes, No upstairs neighbors like the old apartment. The creaking continued. One step. Another. I swallowed hard. Hello? The sound stopped. I told myself old houses settle. That's what everyone says in movies before something awful happens. Still, I forced myself to go back to scrolling TikTok and pretending I wasn't freaked out. Then something scraped against my door. Not hard, just a light drag. Like someone ran their fingers across it. I sat bolt upright in bed. The doorknob twitched. Just a tiny movement. But it happened. Not imagined. Not subtle. Before I could breathe, my phone rang loudly, making me jump. It was Mom. I answered instantly. How are you, sweetie? You need anything? I kept staring at the doorknob. I could have told her what I heard, that I was scared, that I thought something was outside my room. But I knew what she'd do. She'd panic. She'd rush home. She'd blame herself. So I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired." "Okay," she said, relieved. "I'll check in later." The moment the call ended, I stared at the door again. Nothing moved. The rest of the day stayed quiet, but not in a comforting way. More like the house was waiting. That night, my leg throbbed so much, I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, I jolted awake because I thought I heard footsteps. Around midnight, the hallway lights flickered. I wasn't imagining it. My room glowed briefly from light leaking under the doorway, then dimmed. Footsteps this time were unmistakable. Slow. Heavy. Rhythmic. They stopped right outside my room. I held my breath, clutching my blanket so hard my knuckles hurt. Then the doorknob moved again. Not a twitch, a full turn. Click. 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 Someone, or something, was trying to open the door. I whispered, "Mom?" Even though I knew she was asleep down the hall. The knob kept turning. Then it stopped. A faint whisper seeped through the crack between the door and the frame. "Tyler." My heart slammed against my ribs. No one knew my name except my mom. We just moved here. No neighbors visited. No relatives. My name came again, dragged out in a breathy rasp. "Tyler." I grabbed my crutch, ready to swing at anything that came in. But the door never opened. The whisper faded. The footsteps retreated. I stayed awake until sunrise, staring at the handle, begging the morning light to come faster. I tried telling Mom the next morning, but it sounded ridiculous even to me. "What do you mean someone said your name, like, from the hallway?" "I don't know, Mom. It sounded like someone whispering." She rubbed my forehead. "Sweetie, you were half asleep, in pain, on medication. Dreams feel real when you're stressed." Maybe I had imagined it. Except I wasn't asleep. And the doorknob turned. Still, I let it go. Arguing would only make her worry more. But the house didn't stop. Things escalated. Every day I heard Footsteps whispering, scratching on the walls, clicking noises from places where nothing should click. Sometimes something tapped the floor in my room. Sometimes the closet door rattled, even though no air vent was inside it. On the fourth afternoon, while I was dozing lightly, someone knocked on my bedroom door. 3 soft knocks. Mom wasn't home. My blood turned cold. I croaked out, "Who is it?" No answer, then a voice whispered through the door, softer than breath. "Open it." I shook my head violently. "No, no way." The voice came again, a little clearer. "Let me see you." My throat tightened until I could barely breathe. I didn't respond. A moment later, the doorknob began turning again, slowly, patiently. Then it shook violently, like someone yanked it. I screamed for my mom even though I knew she wasn't home. The yanking stopped. Silence. Complete, heavy silence. And then, laughter. A child's laughter. Right outside my door. That broke me. I sobbed hysterically until Mom came home at 5:30. When she saw me shaking, she nearly called an ambulance. I lied and said the pain meds made me nauseous and anxious. She believed me. She shouldn't have. That night, I decided I needed proof. Something to show her I wasn't imagining things. I set my phone on video mode on my nightstand and pointed it at the door. At 1:17 a.m., it happened again. I woke to the sound of breathing. Not my breathing. Someone else's. Deep. Close. Right outside my room. I grabbed my phone to check the camera feed. The video showed my door. The doorknob turned. Slowly. Deliberately. Back and forth. Back and forth. As if trying to choose the perfect moment to come in. Then, on the video, not through my ears but on the recording, a voice said,
"Tyler, open the door."
It wasn't Mom. It wasn't a child. It wasn't any human voice I've ever heard. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I hit stop and immediately played it back. The recording showed door-turning doorknob, my shaky breathing, and that whispered voice, proof. Actual proof. I felt tears fill my eyes, not from fear this time, but from relief. Finally, Mom would believe me, except right as I replayed the clip, the video corrupted. The screen glitched. The audio warped. Then, the entire file vanished. Not deleted. Not in trash. Just gone. Like it had never existed. I stared at the blank screen, heart pounding, bile rising in my throat. Something didn't want me to have proof. Something didn't want my mom to know. Something wanted me alone. The next night, everything escalated. It was exactly 3:03 a.m. when the door handle clicked softly. I sat up, gripping my crutch, heart hammering. The knob turned. Not shaking this time. Turning slowly, steadily. Click. The latch gave. The door opened an inch. I gasped. A hand wrapped around the side of the door. Pale, small, childlike. Fingers curled around the wood. I froze as the door pushed open another inch, then another. Then a face leaned into the gap. White, hollow-eyed, smiling. But not a child's smile. Not anything human smile. The mouth stretched too wide. The eyes too dark. The teeth too many. When it whispered,
"Come play."
I felt my entire body lock up. I screamed loud, panicked, desperate. I threw my crutch at the door. It hit the wood hard, slamming it shut. The sound echoed through the house. Footsteps sprinted down the hall. Mom's voice. "Tyler! Tyler, what happened?" She flung my door open and turned on the light. The hallway was empty. The house silent. I sobbed into her arms. She stayed with me on the floor until I calmed down. Then she said the words I prayed she'd say days earlier. "We're leaving this house first thing in the morning." We packed what we could. We didn't look back. The landlord didn't question why we broke the lease. I think he already knew. A month later, someone else moved in. They lasted 3 weeks. 2 months after that, the house sat empty again. And last year, when I drove past it out of curiosity, every window was boarded up. The staircase where I fell had collapsed. And the front door, still scratched, still gouged, had a single word carved into it. Play. I haven't slept with my door closed since. And I never will again. This happened to me 3 summers ago, when I was 20 and thought staying on campus alone would be no big deal. I go to a mid-sized university in a town that's basically dead outside of the school year. Coffee shops close early, buses run less often, and once the students clear out, everything feels hollow. That summer, I had to retake an exam for a class I bombed. If I didn't pass it, I'd fall behind an entire year in my program. Retakes were scheduled for August, long after everyone had gone home. My options were go home, try to self-study there with my loud family and no privacy, or stay on campus for a few extra weeks alone in one of the nearly empty dorms. I chose the dorm. The university assigned me to dorm 5B, an older building on the edge of campus. It had already been mostly shut down for the summer. No RAs, no desk staff, just a security guard who did rounds and a few scattered international students and athletes staying temporarily on different floors. I was on the 4th floor, in a room that used to be a double, but was now single occupancy for summer session. It sounded kind of nice on paper. In reality, I hated it almost immediately. The first time I stepped into that room, the air felt stale, like nobody had opened the window in months. The furniture was basic dorm stuff. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 wardrobes. One bed was stripped bare. The other had a thin mattress and plastic cover waiting for sheets. There was a faint smell of dust and something else. Something like old shampoo and cheap perfume that had seeped into the walls and never left. I tried to shake off the unease. It was a dorm, not a haunted mansion. "You're being dramatic, Mia," I told myself. "It's just quiet here." But it wasn't just quiet. It was wrong. You know how some places feel like they're watching you back? That's how dorm 5B felt, especially at night. The first week was mostly fine. I went to the library during the day, studied, ate microwave food, watched shows on my laptop. I'd hear the security guard's keys jingle in the hallway once in a while, but that was about it. Most of the doors on my floor were left open and empty, like hollow mouths. No posters on the walls, no shoes by the doors, no music bleeding out from anywhere. Just my door, just my light, just me. It was on the 5th night that I realized I wasn't alone. I was in bed scrolling through my notes for the 10th time when I heard something in the hallway. Footsteps. They weren't hurried like security, and they weren't heavy like maintenance guys. These were light, bare feet on the linoleum. Slow. I checked the time on my phone. 1:47 a.m. Nobody should have been walking around right then. The few students who remained were either on different floors or in a completely different dorm. I'd hardly seen anyone in days. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I held my breath. They didn't move for at least 10 seconds. Then something brushed the bottom of my door. It was a soft sound, like cloth or fingers dragging lightly. I told myself someone was lost. Maybe they got mixed up on floors. Maybe they were drunk. But nobody knocked. Nobody tried the handle. They just stood there. I sat there frozen, staring at the narrow gap between the floor and the door, half expecting to see shadows or feet. Then, finally, the footsteps moved on. Slow, unhurried, padding down the hallway, until the sound faded. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I tried to bring it up casually to campus security when I ran into the guard in the lobby. "Hey, question," I said, trying to sound light. "Is there anyone else on the 4th floor?" He scanned a clipboard. "Just you," he said. "5th floor has 2 guys from the soccer team. 2nd floor has a grad student, and there's a girl from overseas on 3rd. 4th is just you." "Could anybody else get in?" I pressed. "Like a random person or—" "Not unless they have a key card," he said, frowning. "Why? Did you hear something?" I instantly felt stupid. "Oh, it was probably nothing. Just thought I heard someone walking around really late." He shrugged. "Old building. The pipes knock, the vents make noise. Don't worry too much. You're safe here." He meant well, but old building doesn't explain bare feet in the hallway at 1:47 a.m. I tried to forget it, but the next night, the footsteps came back. Same time, same slow pace. This time, they stopped outside, 3 doors down first. I listened as they paused. Then came a dull thud, like something soft bumping against wood. Then they moved again. 2 doors down. Pause. Thud. Then, right outside my door. My heart thudded so loudly, I was sure whoever was out there could hear it. There was a long silence. Then, very faintly, I heard it. A girl crying. It wasn't full-on sobbing, just these quiet, broken little sounds, like someone trying not to let it out fully. I sat up straighter in bed. "Hello?" I said before I could stop myself. The crying stopped instantly. I waited. The footsteps didn't move. I slipped off the bed and tiptoed toward the door, every instinct telling me I shouldn't. But curiosity, as always, won. I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. No footsteps, no crying, no breathing. Very slowly, I reached for the doorknob. The second my fingers touched it, something hit the door from the outside. Hard. It sounded like a fist slamming into it right at my eye level. I yelped and stumbled back, heart racing. The footsteps started again. moving away. This time, they were fast, almost running. Then silence. I didn't open the door that night. In the morning, when I finally checked, there was a faint smudge on the outside of the door, at about face height, like someone had pressed their forehead against it for a long time. I scrubbed it off with a Clorox wipe. It didn't help. The next few days, the pattern continued. Every night, sometime between 1:30 and 2 a.m., I'd hear bare feet in the hallway. Sometimes they only paused outside my room. Sometimes they went up and down the entire corridor, stopping at random doors that had nobody behind them. On the 7th night, the crying started again. I tried to record it on my phone, but every time I hit record, the sound either faded or twisted into something distorted and glitchy on playback. Once, when I stepped into the hallway just after the sounds had stopped, the air felt like walking into a freezer. I could see my own breath. Down at the far end of the corridor, one door was slightly ajar. A room that I knew for a fact should have been empty. The little name card holder next to it was blank. I stared down the hallway for a long time. The door slowly creaked shut, even though there was no draft. I went back into my room and double-locked my door. By the second week, I was so sleep-deprived that my vision blurred whenever I tried to study. The exam was days away. Stress and fear tangled together until I couldn't tell which was worse. Finally, I cracked and told someone. Not security, not staff. My friend Jess, who lived off campus for the summer. I texted her, "Can I call you? My dorm is weird." We got on a video call. I sat with my back to the wall so I could watch the door behind me. I told her everything. The footsteps, the crying, the knocks, the smudge on the door. She's not the type to immediately jump to ghost. She just looked troubled and said, "That's really messed up. I don't like that you're alone in there." "Everyone keeps saying it's an old building," I said. "But old buildings don't know your sleep schedule." "Do you want me to come stay with you?" she asked. I almost said yes, but she worked early shifts at a cafe across town. It would have been a pain for her, and part of me still thought maybe I was being dramatic. "I'll be okay," I lied. "I just needed to tell someone." She chewed her lip. "Record it tonight. Set your phone by the door facing the gap underneath. If you capture anything, we'll go from there, okay?" "Okay," I said. That night, I propped my phone on the floor facing the bottom of my door. I left the screen off, recording only audio. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting. At 1:41 a.m., the footsteps started. I heard them approaching, stopping, moving, stopping again. They paused outside my room longer than usual. I resisted every urge to move. I just stared at my phone on the floor, the little dark shape near the door. A shadow shifted across the bottom crack. It looked like someone was standing right on the other side. Then, from behind the door, came the soft thump of a forehead pressing against the wood. I felt it vibrate slightly. A whisper came through. "Why did you leave me?" My whole body went cold. Another whisper, more urgent, more broken. "Why did you leave me here alone?" Something about the way she said alone made my stomach twist. Then came the crying again, louder this time. That kind of cry where someone is gasping for air between sobs. I wanted to rip the door open and scream at whoever was there to go away, but I couldn't move. After a while, The crying faded. The footsteps retreated. I didn't sleep at all. When the sun finally came up, my hands were shaking as I reached for my phone. I stopped the recording and played it back immediately. There were footsteps. Definitely. Soft, but clear. And then, nothing. No crying. No whispers, no, "Why did you leave me?" Just silence. Then, about 15 minutes into the recording, when nothing should have been there, a distorted, low crackle broke through the audio, like a voice underwater saying something I couldn't make out. I remembered the guard telling me not to worry. My exam was in 2 days. I knew I needed to sleep, or I'd fail it again. So that afternoon, I marched down to the security office. The same guard was there. He looked up, surprised. "Hey, Mia. Everything okay?" "Can I ask you something honest?" I said. "You ever had somebody, I don't know, not want to leave this building?" He frowned. "We've had students cling to the dorms, yeah. Some people hate going home. But is that what you mean?" I hesitated. "Has anyone ever died in dorm 5B? His face changed slightly. Not shock. More like the look of someone who's just been asked about something they were hoping wouldn't come up. "What room are you again?" he asked. 414, I said. "On the 4th floor." He stared at me for a moment, then rubbed his forehead. "Look," he said quietly. "Off the record. A few years back, we had a situation. A girl stayed over winter break. She was supposed to be on a bus home the day after finals. Never made it." "What happened?" I whispered. "She was in 412, he said. 2 doors down from you. Her roommate left early. She stayed behind to finish a paper. Her mom couldn't get a hold of her. Campus police did a wellness check and found her," he winced. "She'd taken her own life. Hung herself on the closet bar with her bedsheet." My stomach dropped. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I asked. "Because they don't tell anyone," he said. "They don't want to scare students, and technically they did a full cleanup and counseling and all that. But buildings remember. You asked me if anyone didn't want to leave. She clearly didn't, or couldn't." "Do you remember her name?" I asked softly. He nodded. "Leah. She was 20. English major, I think. Always in the library. Quiet kid. You remind me of her a little, actually." I didn't like that comparison one bit. "Why does it feel like she's in my hallway?" I asked. For the first time since I'd met him, the guard looked genuinely unsettled. "I didn't say she was in your hallway," he replied. "You did." I left the office with my skin crawling. That night, I slept with the lights on. I stayed on the phone with Jess until almost midnight, trying to distract myself. We hung up so I could at least attempt a few hours of rest before the exam. I must have drifted off at some point because I woke up to the sound of my door unlocking. Click. The handle turned. My heart seized. My keycard was on the desk. Nobody else had one for my door. The handle slowly pressed down. The latch gave. The door eased open a crack. From where I lay, I could see the shadow of someone standing in the gap. Feminine outline. Slumped shoulders. Long hair. "Leah?" I whispered before I could stop myself. The figure in the doorway froze. Then my lights flickered violently and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. I heard bare feet step onto the linoleum. 1 step, 2 steps. I grabbed my phone, but my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The screen's glow lit up a small circle around me. No one was visible in that circle, but I could feel her there, right next to the bed. The mattress dipped at the far corner, like someone had just sat down. The air grew heavier, thicker, like breathing through cloth. A voice, right by my ear, whispered, "You didn't leave. You stayed." I could smell something faint, cheap floral shampoo, like the kind you buy on sale at the campus store. "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears spilling over. "I'm so sorry, Leah." The mattress pressure lifted slightly. Then, more softly, "Don't leave me alone again." My phone buzzed suddenly with a notification, making me jump. The screen lit up with a text from Jess. "Good luck on your exam tomorrow. You got this. Don't stay up too late." The presence in the room shifted. It felt sad somehow, heavy, like disappointment settling into the air. The weight lifted off the bed entirely. The lights flickered back on. The door was closed again. I don't remember falling asleep. When I woke up, it was morning. The exam went better than expected. I passed. Barely. But I passed. I moved out of dorm 5B the same day the retake results came in. I never stayed the extra night I'd booked. I didn't want to be there a moment longer. I've had nightmares on and off since then. Hallways, doors, bare feet on tile. Someone crying outside my room. But the feeling during those dreams is always the same. She's not angry at me. Not exactly. She's just lonely. Stuck in a loop where the semester never ends and nobody comes back. Sometimes I wake up certain I heard footsteps in my hallway, even though I live in an apartment now. I leave the door cracked a little when I sleep, just in case someone standing outside it doesn't want to feel completely alone. My name is Mia, and if you ever stay behind in an almost empty dorm, especially in a room that feels too heavy for one person, don't ignore the footsteps in the hallway. Sometimes the only thing worse than being alone is realizing you aren't. My name is Daniel, and the house I grew up in had one rule, one my parents never said out loud but followed religiously. Keep the closet door closed. When I was 8 years old, that didn't seem strange at all. Parents had rules for everything. Don't run indoors, don't slam the door, brush your teeth. Closing the closet just felt like another part of bedtime. The house was old, the kind that leaned a little, the kind where every floorboard had its own opinion. We moved in because it was cheap enough for my parents to buy, and they were proud, really proud. I'd never seen my dad smile so wide as when he unlocked the door that first day. My room was at the end of the upstairs hallway, window facing the backyard, carpet worn thin in places. The closet took up the entire wall opposite my bed. 2 sliding wooden doors, a little warped, sitting on a brass track that groaned when you moved them. Inside it smelled like cedar and dust and something sweet I never identified. Every night, after tucking me in, my mom would walk to the closet, push the doors shut until they met, and check the little metal latch. My dad did the same. If either of them forgot, they would turn back halfway out of the room, close it, and only then say goodnight. I thought that was just how closets worked in normal houses. The first time it opened by itself, I woke up to the sound of wood scraping softly along wood. The doors had slid open about a foot. The cheap plastic wedge we kept in the track to keep them closed was lying on the floor. The darkness inside the closet felt heavier than the darkness in the room, like it was holding its breath. I slid out of bed, fingers trembling, and pushed the doors closed again. They felt heavier than they should have, like someone was on the other side, resisting just a little before giving in. My mom said the house was settling. My dad said old closets were temperamental. They both smiled too quickly, the way adults smile when they want a kid to stop thinking about something. But the doors kept opening, sometimes an inch, sometimes all the way. Sometimes the wedge would be moved from the floor to the center of the room, or neatly propped against my dresser, like someone had set it down gently. Then the breathing started. Soft, rhythmic. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Coming from inside the closet. At night, I would lie awake, sweaty under the blankets, listening to it. It wasn't the heater. It wasn't pipes. It wasn't any sound I could explain with normal things. It wasn't threatening, but it wasn't right. The first time it said my name, I was 10. It was storming outside, rain hitting the window hard enough to rattle the glass. Lightning flashed through my curtains, illuminating the closet doors cracked halfway open. I stared at that dark line between the doors, dread creeping through my body like cold water. Then a soft, calm voice drifted out. Daniel. Not whispered, not creepy, just present. I froze, every hair on my body standing up. Daniel. A little more insistent, like someone wanted my attention. I pulled the blankets over my head and stayed awake until morning. I told no one. The bathroom connected to my room had its own weirdness. Whenever I took a bath, I felt watched. Not stared at, but monitored. Sometimes the shower curtain would move inward slightly even when there was no draft. One afternoon, while taking a bath, something tapped the side of the tub. Tap, tap, tap. I opened my eyes. The water rippled slightly near my feet. On the fogged-up mirror above the sink, a smiley face began to form. 2 round eyes and a curved line for a mouth, drawn from the inside of the steam. I wiped it off. It reappeared. I ran downstairs dripping wet and shaking. I told Mom I slipped getting out. I lied a lot that year. The living room started acting strange too, reflections appearing where they shouldn't. Our TV, when turned off, showed a dim mirror of the room. One night I looked up and saw a woman sitting on the couch behind me, in the reflection. Long hair obscuring her face, her posture too still. I turned around fast. No one was there. But the center couch cushion had a deep impression, as if someone had been sitting there for a long time. That was when I started realizing something. The closet wasn't the only thing in the house. There was something else, something that stayed outside the closet, something the closet was keeping away. When I was 11, I woke up to the sound of hangers scraping slowly in the closet. Shirts swayed gently, one by one, like invisible fingers were brushing past them. "Please stop," I whispered. The movement stopped instantly. I felt acknowledged, not threatened, not safe, just recognized. The rest of the house didn't react that way. The living room lights flickered. The bathroom mirror fogged words I couldn't understand. The hallway air grew colder when I walked through it alone. But the closet? The closet reacted to me, and it always shut itself when things in the house got strange. By 12, I suspected the presence inside it wasn't the danger. It was the only thing standing between me and the danger. By the time I turned 12, the house had its own rhythm. Quiet during the day, uneasy in the evenings, alive at night. My parents never admitted noticing anything unusual, but they grew softer-footed in the hallways, more careful with their voices after dark, as if not to disturb something they couldn't quite name. The closet, meanwhile, became its own sort of guardian. Some nights, I'd wake to faint scraping inside it, like hangers shifting or boxes nudging. But whenever something happened outside my room, like the bathroom faucet turning on by itself or the TV in the living room clicking to static in the middle of the night, the closet doors would always be shut tightly come morning, even if I'd left them cracked. The message was subtle, but I felt it. Stay inside. Don't wander. Not at night. One afternoon, the house decided to prove its point. I came home from school with a stomachache and went upstairs to take a hot bath. The water was running, steaming the bathroom, fogging the mirror. I closed the bathroom door behind me, not all the way shut, just until it clicked lightly. The hallway beyond it echoed faintly with the emptiness of the house. I sank into the tub, letting the heat soak into my arms and legs. The ache eased, my mind drifting. For a few minutes, I forgot about closets and mirrors and voices. Then the shower curtain pressed inward, just slightly, as if someone brushed by it. I sat up, blinking water from my eyes. Tap, tap, tap. Something tapped the side of the bathtub. I turned my head slowly. No one was there. The water rippled in a short, precise pattern. 3 small waves rolling outward from the same spot, like a fingertip had touched the surface. Before I could react, the bathroom mirror, completely fogged now, started clearing itself in one small patch. A circle, then another, then a straight line beneath them. A face again, but this time, not smiling. Before the full expression formed, the steam around it shifted, and new letters began carving themselves into the fog, strokes appearing with a deliberate slowness that made my skin crawl. H-I-D. I froze in the water, breath caught in my throat. The house went quiet. Not normal quiet. Held, breath, quiet. The bathroom door clicked softly behind me. I snapped my head toward it. The knob turned. Not fast. Not like someone barging in. Slowly. Testing. The door nudged inward an inch. Then another. Beyond the crack stood the short hallway that led to my bedroom. And in that hallway, the air moved. The sound that followed wasn't footsteps, but weight. Pressure shifting across old wood, boards complaining in separate places, almost like several heavy shapes moving at once. I gripped the sides of the tub, shaking. My voice cracked. Closet? I didn't know why I said it. I didn't know what I expected. But something answered. From my bedroom, the closet door slammed shut. So hard the sound echoed through the entire upstairs like a warning shot. The hallway went dead silent. The pressure in the air retreated. Whatever had been approaching the bathroom was no longer there. For several seconds, I stayed in the cooling water, staring at the steamed mirror. The word remained, hide. I got out of the tub fast, wrapped myself in a towel, and stepped into the hallway. My bedroom was empty, but the closet, normally slightly ajar during the day, was closed so tightly the warped wood strained against the frame. The wedge lay untouched. My heart felt too loud, like the house could hear it. That night, the bathroom mirror didn't fog at all when my mom took a shower. The days that followed grew stranger. I stopped using the upstairs bathroom whenever I could avoid it. I stopped watching TV alone in the living room at night. I even avoided walking past the hall closet, the one outside my room, because sometimes I felt a cold patch of air near it, as if someone invisible was leaning against the door from the other side. Meanwhile, the closet in my room grew more active. Some mornings I'd wake to find one of my toys placed carefully on the floor beside the door. Not tossed, not dropped, placed. A little army man. A toy truck I hadn't seen in years. A baseball glove I outgrew. Once, a small folded note from one of my old school notebooks appeared in front of the closet. In my own handwriting, from second grade. Come back soon. I hadn't written that note recently. I hadn't seen that notebook since we moved in. I started wondering if the presence in the closet wasn't trying to scare me, but trying to communicate. What I didn't realize was that it had been communicating all along. I just hadn't understood the language. Around that time, things in the rest of the house escalated. One night, I was in the living room pretending to do homework. Dad was late from work again, and Mom was upstairs folding laundry. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. Then, the TV turned on. Not the screen. The sound. A faint static hiss filled the room. The screen remained completely black. I stared at my distorted reflection in the glass. For a moment, I thought I saw something move behind me in the reflection, a shape that didn't match the room. Before it could clarify, the TV shut off again. The room went silent. Then, from upstairs, my mom called out, "Daniel? Are you down there?" "Yeah." "Did you just walk down the hallway?" "No." Silence. Then, carefully, "I thought I heard someone pass my door." I didn't answer. Somebody had walked past her door. Just not anyone human. That night, I slept with the lamp on and my back pressed against the wall. The closet stayed shut. When I was 13, the dreams started. In them, I always stood in front of the closet, barefoot, wearing the same pajamas I wore to bed. The closet doors were closed, but something inside pressed gently outward, causing the wood to bow slightly. In the dream, I raised my hand and pressed back, not pushing the door in, just touching it, acknowledging it. Every time I did, the pressure eased, and I woke with tears on my cheeks, and the vague, gut-deep understanding that whatever lived in the closet wasn't trying to escape. It was trying to hold something in, or hold something back. One afternoon near the end of 7th grade, I was showering after gym class. It was hot out, and I was sweaty and drained. My parents weren't home yet, and the house was unusually quiet. The bathroom filled with steam quickly. I wiped a patch of mirror clear, staring at my tired reflection. Behind me, the doorway to my room stood open. And in that doorway, my closet doors were open. Not cracked, not drifting, wide open. I froze, water running down my face. The bathroom light flickered once, then again, Then the steam on the mirror shifted. 4 letters wrote themselves slowly, deliberately. D-O-N-T. A second later, the shower curtain tugged inward sharply, as if someone grabbed it. I stumbled backwards, slipping slightly. My heart raced. From my room, a sound rose. A heavy thud. Then another. Like large objects shifting or being thrown. Something outside the bathroom was moving violently. The mirror's message shifted. More letters appeared beneath the first line. G-O. I turned off the water, grabbed a towel, and stepped into the hallway just as the house went still. The closet doors in my room, the ones that had been wide open seconds ago, were now shut. The wedge was in place. My bedroom window was open, curtains fluttering gently. And beneath the window, on the wall, long vertical scratches had appeared. Parallel, deep, uniform. Not claw marks, not human fingernails. More like pressure, as if something large had pressed down the wall from ceiling to floor, using enormous force. Whatever it was, the closet had stopped it from coming further. That was the night I accepted the truth. The presence in my closet wasn't the one I needed protection from. After that night, I avoided my room as much as possible. I slept on the couch or in the guest room. My parents didn't fight me on it. They never asked why I stopped sleeping upstairs. They just quietly respected it, which told me they had noticed far more than they admitted. The house grew tense. Doors creaked even when closed. The living room lights buzzed and flickered whenever I walked through. My dad started leaving the hallway light on overnight, something he'd never done before. But the closet? It stayed shut. It stayed calm. It stayed consistent. When everything else in the house felt wrong, like a pressure building in the walls, the closet remained the one thing that behaved. It was the one thing that felt like it was watching out for me. One evening, my dad came home late and tired. I sat halfway down the stairs, listening to him and Mom talk in the kitchen. "The buyers backed out," he said quietly. "They said the place made them uncomfortable. That's the third family." Mom didn't speak for several seconds, then she whispered, "Do you think it's something?" He let out a shaky breath. "I think something doesn't want Daniel in danger." My stomach twisted. He knew. He hadn't said it directly, but he knew. Both of them did. They weren't ignoring what was happening. They were trying to live around it. That night, I gathered enough courage to go into my room alone. I turned on the lamp, stepped inside, and shut the door behind me. The closet doors were closed. The room felt neutral, neither warm nor cold. I walked to the closet and placed my hand gently against the wood. "Thank you," I whispered. A soft shifting sound came from inside. Not footsteps, not scraping. Something more like a slow exhale. It wasn't language, but I understood it anyway. "You're welcome." A month later, my parents finally found a couple willing to buy the house. A young married pair, excited, starry-eyed, and completely unaware of how many offers had fallen through. "They're expecting," Mom told me softly one night. "A little girl." My breath caught. "They want to turn your room into the nursery." The idea made me feel strange, protective and sad and oddly relieved. If the closet spirit had guarded me all those years, would it guard her too? Would it still try? On moving day, I went upstairs for one last look. The house was empty, echoes in the walls. My room felt smaller without furniture. My posters were gone, my books, my toys. Only the outline where my bed used to sit remained in the carpet. The closet doors were open, not wide but enough to invite acknowledgement. I stepped forward and slid them shut gently. But something compelled me to open them again, just once more. Inside, the cedar smell was stronger now. The shelves bare, the floor dusty, the corners thick with shadow. "Are you still there?" I asked softly. For a moment, nothing. Then the shadows in the far corner shifted. Just barely, just enough that my eyes caught the movement. A faint, warm pressure brushed my shoulder, the way someone might place a hand there in reassurance. My throat tightened. "I'm leaving," I whispered. "I'm not coming back. That little girl, she's going to need you now. More than I ever did." The warm pressure lingered, then eased. I stepped back. The closet doors slid shut on their own. Smooth, noiseless, purposeful. Not a warning. A promise. I left the house behind, finished high school, went to college. Life moved on. But I never forgot that presence. Never forgot the feeling of being watched over by something I couldn't explain and shouldn't understand. Months later, during freshman year, my mom texted me a photo from the new owners. It showed my old room, freshly painted, pale yellow, sun streaming through the window, a white crib set up where my bed once stood. Stuffed animals lined the shelf. A mobile hung from the ceiling. The closet was visible in the left corner of the frame. Its doors were closed. My mom added a caption. "Nursery almost done. Isn't it sweet?" But I zoomed past the crib, past the rug, past the cheerful decorations. I zoomed into the wood grain of the closet. Near the bottom edge of the right side door, the natural pattern of the wood curved slightly upward. A soft, crooked line, easy to miss unless you were looking for it. To anyone else, it would just be a quirk in the wood. To me, it looked like a small, reassuring smile. Not haunting, not ominous, not threatening. A presence saying, "I'm still here. I'll keep watching. She won't be alone." I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I wrote back to my mom. "Yeah, it looks perfect." Because the truth was something I'd always known, but only now understood. Not everything in a haunted house is there to hurt you. Some things exist quietly, patiently, protectively. In the dark corners, behind old doors, inside quiet closets, not to scare you, but to keep the real danger out. And that's where tonight's stories come to an end. 3 houses, 3 memories that never quite stayed behind. If these stories followed you a little longer than you expected, if you caught yourself glancing down a dark hallway or listening more closely to the quiet inside your own home, then you understand why some places are never truly empty. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please consider liking the video and subscribing to Mr. Bones Midnight Society. I truly appreciate your support. It helps this channel continue and brings more real stories like these to life. To all my Midnight members, thank you for sitting with me tonight, wherever in the world you're listening from. Until next time, I'll see you again. right here around our campfire. Good night, Midnight members. Sleep well, if you can.